The conference chamber stretched across 3 levels, filled with representatives from 47 different species. Giwan stood at the human podium, her dark hair pulled back in a simple bun. Wearing the plain gray suit that marked Earth's diplomatic corps, she had been doing this for 12 years now. 12 years of presenting evidence, making cases, asking for justice. 12 years of being ignored. Across the chamber, Thalric lounged in his seat. The Varaxian ambassador was twice her height, covered in blue-black scales that gleamed under the artificial lights. His species had controlled a third of the galaxy for millennia. They were warriors, conquerors, proud of their strength. Thalric found humans amusing in the way someone might find a small animal trying to roar. Guan activated her presentation. Images filled the holographic display above the chamber floor. Colony sites abandoned. Agricultural stations relocated. Mining operations surrendered. 17 locations over the past decade. 17 times humanity had chosen to leave rather than fight. The Varaxian Empire continues its expansion into human-claimed territory, Giwan said, keeping her voice steady. We have followed every legal protocol. We have filed every required document. We have asked for mediation 17 times. Each time, we chose peace. We moved our people. We left behind infrastructure worth trillions. We did this because we believed in this council. Thalric's laughter echoed through the chamber. Several other species joined in. The sound bounced off the walls, mocking and cruel. Ambassador Giwan Thalric said, his voice like rocks grinding together. Your species has claimed many things, but you have never claimed courage. You run when we approach. You flee when we advance. This is the way of the weak. The strong take what they need. The weak accept their place. Guan's hands tightened on the podium. She wanted to scream. She wanted to tell them about human history, about the wars that had raged across Earth for 10,000 years, about the weapons they had built and then locked away, about the choice humanity had made when they reached the stars, to be better than their past. But she had said all of this before. No one listened. We are requesting formal sanctions, Guan said instead. Economic restrictions until the Varaxian Empire respects established borders. The vote was called. Of 47 species, 3 voted yes. Humans could only vote on matters that affected them directly. It was not enough. It was never enough. G1 closed her files and left the chamber. Behind her, she could hear Thalric still laughing. 3 days later, everything changed. Captain Hyoji received the distress signal at 0600 hours. Her ship, the Eternal Dawn, was the closest vessel to the agricultural station at Kepler 442. The message was brief, panicked. Varaxian warships had appeared without warning. They were firing on civilian structures. Hyoji pushed her engines past safety limits. The journey would take for hours. She broadcast emergency signals to every human ship in range. She sent a priority message to Earth. She did everything she could. When the Eternal Dawn dropped out of faster-than-light travel, there was nothing left to save. The agricultural station had housed 40,000 people. Farmers, engineers, teachers, children. The complex had stretched across 3 orbital platforms, growing food for 6 different colonies. Now it was debris. Twisted metal tumbled through space. Bodies floated in the void, frozen and still. Hyoji walked through her ship in silence. Her crew worked their stations with tears streaming down their faces. They collected what they could. They recorded everything. They sent it all back to Earth. On one of the floating platforms, they found a classroom. The children had been drawing pictures. Images of farms and families, bright colors on white paper. The pictures drifted through the vacuum, still perfect. While the children who made them were gone, the unified Earth. Government had not met in emergency session since the founding wars 3 centuries ago. Representatives from every nation, every colony, every outpost gathered in Geneva. The session was broadcast across all human space. Billions watched. Admiral Minho stood before the assembly. He was 60 years old, gray-haired and straight-backed. He had spent 40 years in the defense fleet, following rules of engagement that never allowed him to fire first. He had watched human ships retreat 17 times. He had obeyed every order. They killed 40,000 civilians, Minho said. We have the recordings. The Varasian ships targeted the life support systems first. They made sure no one could escape. Then they destroyed everything else. They did this because they knew we would not fight back. They were right. We have not fought back. Not once in 300 years. The chamber was silent. I am requesting authorization, Minho continued. Full military authorization. Total war. The debate lasted 6 hours. Some argued for more diplomacy. Some said violence would make humanity no better than their enemies. Some said they should try one more time to make the council listen. But then they showed the pictures. The children's drawings, floating in space. The faces of the dead, frozen and peaceful. The message the Varaxians had broadcast after the attack, laughing about how easy it had been. The vote was called. Every nation. Every colony. Every representative. The result was unanimous. G1 received the message on her personal terminal. She was still at the council station, packing her belongings. She read it 3 times to make sure she understood. Then she requested an immediate council session. The chamber filled slowly. Many species seemed annoyed at being called back so soon. Thalric arrived last, making a show of his boredom. G1 stood at the podium. She held no files this time. She needed no evidence. She spoke 5 words. The Unified Earth Government declares war. The chamber erupted in laughter. Thalric laughed loudest of all. G1 let them laugh. She waited until the sound died down. Then she spoke again, her voice quiet but clear. We gave you 300 years of peace. We showed you patience. We showed you mercy. We believed you would honor the same values. We were wrong. This war will continue until the Varaxian Empire surrenders completely or ceases to exist. There will be no negotiation. There will be no compromise. You have crossed a line you did not know existed. Now you will learn what stands behind human kindness. She gathered her things and walked out. Behind her, the laughter had finally stopped. The news spread across the galaxy in hours. Humanity had declared war. The reaction was almost universal. Amusement. In the betting halls of the Craster trade stations, odds were posted. How long would the war last? Most bets centered on less than a week. A few optimists gave humans a full month. The prize pools grew massive as species across the galaxy wagered on humanity's humiliation. Thalric held a press conference from the Varaxian capital. He stood before a dozen news drones, his scales polished to a mirror shine. The humans believe they can challenge the Varaxian Empire, he said, his voice full of contempt.
Oh, they have no warrior culture.
They have no conquest history. Their fleet is designed for defense only. They have never fired a shot in anger. This will not be a war. It will be an education, he announced his response. 3 human colonies would be destroyed immediately. Not as military targets, but as lessons. The galaxy watched and waited for humanity to back down. They did not understand what was happening on Earth. Admiral Minho stood in the command center beneath Geneva. Around him, holographic displays showed every human ship, every defense station, every military installation. For 300 years, this center had coordinated peaceful operations. Now it coordinated something else. How many ships can we deploy immediately? Minho asked. Until 412 capital ships, responded Commander Sumin, head of intelligence. Another 600 support vessels. We have kept them in reserve, spread across our territory. How many can the Varaxians field? Their main fleet numbers around 800 capital ships, but they are spread across their empire. The force heading toward our core worlds is 200 ships. They believe that is more than enough. Minho studied the tactical display. The Varaxian fleet was moving in a standard conquest formation meant to intimidate and overwhelm. They expected humanity to scatter. They expected panic and surrender. Where will they expect us to meet them? Minho asked. At the Helios defense line, near our core systems. It is the logical, defensive position. Then we will meet them at the Talon Nebula instead. General Doyon, commander of ground forces, looked up from his display. That is deep space, Admiral. There is nothing there to defend. Exactly, Minho said. They think we will defend. We will attack. On the other side of the command center, Engineer Kung Ho was unsealing storage vaults that had been locked for 3 centuries. Inside were weapons humans had designed, but never deployed. Kinetic bombardment platforms that could crack planets. AI-controlled hunter drones that could track targets across solar systems. Quantum displacement mines that could tear holes in space itself. I never thought we would use these, Kung Ho said quietly. Neither did I, Minho replied. But they killed our children. Now they will learn why we built these weapons in the first place. The human fleet moved in silence. 80 capital ships accelerated toward the Talon Nebula, using routes that avoided all major trade lanes. They maintained communication silence. To the galaxy, they seemed to have vanished. The Varaxian fleet continued its advance, broadcasting threats and demands. They announced the first colony. They would destroy. They gave humanity 24 hours to surrender. Humanity did not respond. Thalric began to suspect something was wrong when his scouts stopped reporting. Ships sent to monitor human movements simply disappeared. No distress signals. No debris. Just silence. Then came the reports from the Talon Nebula. A small Varaxian patrol had detected something. A massive energy signature. Ships. Many ships. How many? Thalric demanded. The sensors indicate 80 capital vessels, Commander. All human. Thalric laughed. 80. We have 200. They have decided to make this quick. Redirect the fleet. We will destroy them in one engagement. The Varaxian fleet changed course, moving toward the nebula with confidence. Their ships were larger than human vessels. Their weapons were proven in 1,000 conquests. They outnumbered the enemy more than 2 to 1. The engagement began at exactly 1400 hours. Galactic Standard Time. The Varaxians opened fire first, as expected. Massive energy beams lanced across space toward the human formation. The human ships scattered, not in panic, but in a pattern. They moved like they were dancing, each vessel knowing exactly where the others would be. The Varaxian fire hit empty space. Then the humans turned fire. The first volley destroyed 40 Varaxian ships. The weapons were not energy beams. They were solid projectiles, moving at relativistic speeds. When they hit with the force of nuclear weapons. Varaxian shields, designed to deflect energy, did nothing against mass traveling at 90% of light speed. Thalric watched in horror as his fleet tried to adapt. The captains were good, experienced in hundreds of battles. They began evasive maneuvers. They tried to target the small, fast-moving human ships. The humans released their drones. Thousands of small craft poured from the human vessels. They were not piloted. AI controlled each one, coordinated by quantum networks that made them act as a single organism. They swarmed the Varaxian ships, targeting engines and weapon systems with surgical precision. Varaxian captains tried to shoot them down. For every drone they destroyed, 10 more took its place. Then the humans deployed their mines. Space itself seemed to tear open. Quantum displacement fields created pockets of twisted gravity. Varaxian ships caught in the fields were crushed, torn apart by forces that should not exist. The battle lasted 47 minutes. When it ended, 197 Varaxian ships were destroyed. The remaining 3 had surrendered immediately, their captains begging for mercy. The human fleet had taken no casualties. Not one ship damaged beyond repair. Admiral Minho broadcast a message from his flagship. It was sent to every news network in the galaxy. His face appeared on billions of screens, calm and composed. This is Admiral Minho of the Unified Earth Defense Fleet. The Varaxian Empire attacked our civilians without warning. They have threatened to destroy our colonies. They believed we would not fight. They were wrong. He paused, letting his words sink in. We are coming for every world you took from us. We are coming for every station you destroyed. We are coming for justice. Any species that aids the Varaxian Empire will be considered hostile. This is your only warning." The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, the laughter died. The betting halls fell silent. Species that had mocked humanity began to reconsider. In the Galactic Council chamber, representatives gathered in emergency session. They watched the battle recordings. They saw the efficiency, the precision, the absolute control. An elderly counselor from the Drev species spoke what everyone was thinking. "We assumed they were pacifists because they never fought. We never considered they might be pacifists because they knew. What would happen if they? Did Thalric receive new orders from the Varaxian High? Command, retreat, regroup, request reinforcements from allied species." But when he sent the requests, he received only silence. One by one, the Varaxian allies were withdrawing support. They had seen what humanity could do, and they wanted no part of it. The human fleet did not stop after the Talon Nebula. They did not pause to negotiate or offer terms. They moved forward like a tide that could not be turned back. Admiral Minho coordinated the entire campaign from his flagship, the Indomitable Will. His command center displayed tactical information from 1,000 sources. Every human ship, every enemy position, every strategic objective. He studied them with the focus of a chess master planning 20 moves ahead. "The Varaxians expect us to advance slowly," Minho said to his senior staff. "They expect us to consolidate our gains, to secure supply lines, to follow standard military doctrine. We will do none of these things." Commander June, leader of Special Operations, leaned forward. She was younger than most senior officers, only 35, but she had trained for this her entire life. "What are your orders, Admiral?" "We strike everywhere at once. We give them no time to regroup, no chance to prepare. They wanted war. We will show them what war truly means." The human fleet split into 7 battle groups. Each moved independently toward different Varaxian holdings. To outside observers, it looked chaotic. It was anything but. Pilot Youngji sat in her strike craft, one of 300 in her squadron. They were attached to Battle Group 3, heading toward a Varaxian mining colony. Her fighter was small, fast, and deadly. She had trained in simulators for years, running combat scenarios that seemed impossible. Now those scenarios were real. "All craft. This is control," came the voice in her helmet. "Enemy fighters launching. Count is 500 plus. They have numerical advantage." Youngji checked her weapons. "Kinetic cannons, missile pods, electronic warfare systems. Everything ready?" "Understood. Control." "Beginning attack pattern, Hansen," the other pilots acknowledged. They had studied battles from human history, ancient naval engagements, and aerial dogfights. Pattern Hansen was based on a naval battle from 16th century Korea, where a smaller force had destroyed a larger enemy, fleet through superior tactics. The human fighters moved in tight formations, supporting each other. When Varaxian craft attacked, they found their targets already covered by 3 other human ships. When they tried to pursue, they flew into carefully positioned firing lanes. Youngji destroyed her first enemy craft within 30 seconds, then her second, then her third. Around her, her squadron worked like a single organism. They did not need constant communication. They had trained together so long that each pilot knew what the others would do. Before they did it, the engagement lasted 8 minutes. 476 Varaxian fighters were destroyed. The human squadron lost 12 craft, and all 12 pilots ejected safely. On the ground, General Doyon was proving that humans were just as dangerous without ships. The Varaxian colony of Turtix. 3 had strong defenses, automated gun emplacements, energy shields, a garrison of 5,000 soldiers. Standard doctrine said it would take weeks to capture. With heavy casualties, Dujan's forces took it in one night. They did not approach directly. They did not attempt a frontal assault. Instead, they used the terrain. Turtix 3 was a jungle world, hot and humid. The Varaxians hated it, staying inside their climate-controlled bases whenever possible. Humans barely noticed the heat. Their ancestors had evolved on a world with a dozen different climate zones. They could adapt to almost anything. Doyen's soldiers moved through the jungle in absolute silence. They had studied the base defenses for months, back when humanity was still gathering intelligence while pretending to be peaceful. They knew every sensor position, every patrol route, with every weak point. The first the Varaxian garrison knew of the attack was when their power failed. Human infiltrators had sabotaged the generators from inside. Then the gun emplacements exploded, destroyed by carefully placed charges. Varaxian soldiers rushed to their defensive positions in the dark. They found human soldiers already there, waiting. The fight was brief and brutal. Humans did not stand and trade fire. They moved, flanked, disappeared, and reappeared. They had been studying war for 10,000 years. The Varaxians were learning lessons humanity had mastered millennia ago. By dawn, the base was in human hands. Doyen stood in the command center, looking at the maps of 17 more colonies. All would fall within the week. Commander June's special operations teams were striking at the heart of Varaxian power. They did not target military bases or fleets. They targeted infrastructure. Communications hubs went dark. Supply depots exploded. Fuel refineries burned. Most remarkably, no one saw the attacks coming. The humans infiltrated Varaxian facilities with ease, sometimes spending weeks in deep cover before striking. One team, led by Lieutenant Sora, spent 3 months working as maintenance crew on a Varaxian command station. They learned the schedules, the security protocols, the daily routines. Then, on the night they received activation orders, they moved. The station's main computer system was isolated, protected by multiple security layers. Sora's team bypassed them all, using techniques developed by human hackers centuries ago. They did not destroy the system. They subverted it. When Varaxian commanders tried to coordinate their fleets, they received false information. Orders were scrambled. Position reports were wrong. Ships went to rendezvous points where no one was waiting. The Varaxian military began to fracture, unable to communicate or coordinate. Admiral Minho watched the campaign unfold with grim satisfaction. Every day brought new victories. Every week saw more Varaxian territory fall under human control, but he took no joy in it. Before each battle, he reviewed the casualty reports from the agricultural station. 40,000 names. 40,000 people who had died because they believed in peace. How many Varaxian military personnel have we killed? Minho asked Commander Sumin. Approximately 80,000, Admiral. Another 100,000 captured, and civilians? Fewer than 100, mostly accidents during evacuations. We have been extremely careful, Minho nodded. That was important. Humanity was at war, but they were not becoming monsters. Every target was military. Every strike was precise. When human forces captured Varaxian colonies, the civilians were protected and treated according to strict rules of engagement. Some of Minho's officers questioned this. Why show mercy to an enemy that had shown them none? Minho's response was simple. We are not fighting to become like them. We are fighting to ensure no one ever does this again. That means showing the galaxy there is a better way, even in war. The message was not lost on other species. They watched humanity reclaim 17 colonies in 3 weeks. They saw the military precision and the careful restraint. They began to understand that humans were not mindless berserkers. They were something far more dangerous. Warriors with discipline and purpose. Pilot Youngji became an ace, credited with 27 confirmed kills. When reporters asked her how it felt, she looked at them with sad eyes. Every enemy I kill was someone's child. I do not celebrate this, but I will not let them kill any more of our children. General Doyen's forces pushed deeper into Varaxian territory. His soldiers adapted to every environment, every challenge. Desert worlds, ice planets, toxic atmospheres. They fought and won on all of them. Commander Juden's teams operated in complete secrecy. Striking at targets the Varaxians did not even know were vulnerable, and Admiral Minho coordinated it all. Moving pieces across the board with the skill of a master strategist, the Varaxian Empire, which had ruled a third of the galaxy for millennia, was crumbling. Their fleets were shattered. Their colonies were falling. Their allies had abandoned them, and humanity had not even deployed their full military strength yet. 6 months into the war, the Varaxian Empire controlled less than half its original territory. Human forces had reclaimed every colony they had abandoned. They had pushed beyond, taking strategic systems deep in Varaxian space. The galaxy watched in growing horror. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session for the 5th time. Representatives from 47 species filled the chamber, but the mood was different from before. There was no laughter now. Only Fear.G1 stood at the human podium once more. She looked different from 6 months ago. Her eyes were harder, her stance more confident. She no longer came to ask for justice. She came to deliver it. The Council has requested that humanity cease military operations, Giwan said, her voice carrying across the silent chamber. You ask us to negotiate. You ask us to show mercy. Where was this concern when the Varaxians destroyed our agricultural station? Where was this mercy when they killed 40,000 civilians? A counselor from the Menthri species stood. Ambassador Juan, we understand your anger, but the scale of your response is unprecedented. The Varaxian military has been effectively destroyed. Surely that is enough. Enough. Juan's voice was cold. They murdered children. They laughed about it. They promised to do it again. No, counselor. It is not enough. Not yet. Thalric sat in his seat, no longer lounging. His scales had lost their shine. He looked older, beaten. The proud warrior who had mocked humanity 6 months ago was gone. In his place sat a desperate diplomat trying to save his species from extinction. Please, Thalric said, and the words seemed to pain him. We acknowledge our mistakes. We are willing to negotiate. Surely humanity does not want genocide? Juan turned to face him. You are right. We do not want genocide. If we did, your homeworld would already be ash. But we do want justice, and we will have it. She activated a display showing the current military situation. Varaxian territory was marked in blue, now reduced to a fraction of its former size. Human forces were marked in green, surrounding the Varaxian homeworld in a tight siege. Commander, Siori directed the siege from the battlecruiser Eternal Justice. She was one of humanity's finest tactical minds, patient and thorough. Her fleet of 80 ships maintained a perfect blockade around the Varaxian homeworld. Nothing got in or out without her permission. But Siori did not bombard the planet. She did not threaten civilians. Instead, she waited inside the blockade. The Varaxian government was collapsing. Food supplies were running low. Medical supplies were scarce. The civilian population was panicking, and the Varaxian military could do nothing to help them. Why do they wait? Asked Varaxian Prime Minister Kolreth, staring at the tactical displays. They have the firepower to destroy our world. Why do they not use it? His military advisor, General Wanchik, shook his head. Because they want us to understand. They could kill us all easily, but they choose not to. They are showing us the difference between their mercy and our cruelty. Back at the council, Jawan continued her address. The council wishes to understand what humans are. You have asked why we never fought before. You have wondered why we seem so skilled at war despite having no warrior culture. Let me explain. Oh, she gestured to another display. A woman appeared on screen, introduced as Dr. Hannah, Earth's leading xenanthropologist. Hannah had spent her career studying alien species. Now she would teach them about humanity. Before humans reached space, Dr. Hannah began, we spent 10,000 years at war with ourselves. We divided along every possible line. Nation fought nation. Religion fought religion. Ideology fought ideology. We developed weapons that could destroy our entire planet. We used them. The council chamber was absolutely silent. In our recorded history, we killed over 1 billion of our own species in organized warfare. This does not count smaller conflicts, civil wars, or individual violence. 1 billion dead. All humans killing other humans. Hannah displayed images from human history. Ancient battles with swords and spears, medieval sieges, world wars with millions dead, nuclear explosions. The images were terrible and beautiful and horrifying. We studied war like other species study art. We wrote books about strategy that are still read 3,000 years after they were written. We developed tactics, doctrines, philosophies of combat. Every human child learns about famous battles the way your children learn mathematics. She paused, letting the information settle. Then we reached space. We had a choice to make. We could continue as we had been, taking our wars to the stars. Or we could choose something different. We chose peace, not because we did not know how to fight, but because we knew exactly how to fight. We had seen where that path led. We decided to try another way. Every human you have met, Hannah continued, every diplomat, every scientist, every merchant and explorer, they all come from this history. They are all descendants of warriors. They all carry this knowledge in their cultural memory, and they all chose to be peaceful, despite knowing how to be anything but. She looked directly at the council. You mistook our choice for inability. You thought our patience was weakness. You believed our mercy was fear. You were wrong about all of it. Thowrick stood, his voice shaking. We understand now. Please. What can we do to end this? Guan turned back to him. You can surrender. Completely and unconditionally. You can accept occupation of your homeworld. You can submit to war crimes tribunals for those who ordered the attack on our civilians. You can demilitarize your entire species. And you can do all of this knowing that humanity would be within its rights to demand far worse. And if we do all this, what then? Then we will help you rebuild. We will show you the same mercy we asked from you. We will prove that peace is possible, even after war. The Varixian government met in emergency session. Prime Minister Colrith looked at his advisors, his generals, his counselors. They had no good options left. If we refuse? Someone asked. General Wanchik answered. Then Commander Suori's fleet will eventually storm our world. They will win. We have seen what human ground forces can do. They will take our planet in days, perhaps hours. And if we make them do that, if we force them to fight for every building and every street, they may not be so generous afterward. Can we win? Colrith asked directly.
Simply.
We cannot. We never could have. We just did not know it. The vote was taken. The Vraxian Empire would surrender. When the news reached the Galactic Council, many species felt relief. The war would end. The galaxy could return to normal, but some species understood the deeper truth. The galaxy would never be normal again. The balance of power had shifted. Humanity had proven themselves the most formidable military force in known space, and they had done it while maintaining strict moral standards. Protecting civilians. Following rules of engagement that most species would have abandoned. This made them more terrifying, not less. Any species could win through overwhelming brutality. Humanity had won while holding themselves to higher standards than their enemies. Kiwan delivered the final statement to the council. Humanity did not want this war. We spent 3 centuries trying to avoid it, but you gave us no choice. Now the galaxy knows what we are. We are a species that will endure any insult, absorb any aggression, sacrifice any territory to maintain peace. But if you cross the final line, if you harm our innocent, if you force us to war, you will face an enemy unlike any you have known. We do not fight for conquest. We do not fight for glory. We fight for justice, and we will win. Remember this the next time you consider attacking those who choose peace. Commander Suori received the surrender at 1400 hours, Galactic Standard Time. She accepted it on behalf of humanity, then immediately ordered her fleet to begin delivering humanitarian supplies to the Varaxian homeworld. The siege had lasted 3 months. Not one orbital bombardment had occurred. Not one civilian had died from human action. When Varaxian citizens saw human ships landing with food and medicine instead of weapons, some began to cry. They had expected monsters. they found something far worse. They found judges. The surrender ceremony took place on neutral ground, aboard a council station at the edge of explored space. Representatives from every major species attended. News drones captured every moment for broadcast across the galaxy. Thalric arrived first, wearing simple robes instead of his ornate diplomatic armor. He looked smaller somehow, diminished. With him came Prime Minister Kolrith and General Wanshik. They carried the formal instruments of surrender, documents that would reshape the galaxy. Admiral Minho represented humanity. He wore his military dress uniform, dark blue with simple decorations. No medals for victories, no symbols of conquest. Just the insignia of the unified Earth Defense Fleet. The documents were brief and absolute. The Varaxian Empire would retain its homeworld and 3 adjacent systems. All other territory would be surrendered. The Varaxian military would be dissolved, with only a small defense force allowed. War crimes tribunals would be established. Reparations would be paid, but the reparations were not what the galaxy expected. The Varaxian Empire will pay reparations through cultural exchange, Minho read from the agreement. You will share your history, your art, your philosophy. You will send teachers to human schools and accept human teachers in yours. You will work with us to build understanding between our species. Kolrith looked up in surprise. You do not demand resources? Territory. Tribute. We have resources, Minho said simply. We have territory. What we want is to ensure this never happens again. That requires understanding, not punishment. The documents were signed. The war was officially over. G1 returned to the Galactic Council 3 days later. The chamber was full, every species represented. They waited to hear what humanity would demand now that they held the most powerful military in known space. The Council has questions, Juan began. You want to know what humanity wants? You want to know if we will become what we defeated. Let me address these concerns. She activated a display showing the human fleet. Hundreds of ships, enough firepower to threaten any species in the galaxy. Effective immediately, humanity will begin decommissioning half our military fleet. The warships will be converted to colony vessels, medical ships, and exploration craft. We built these ships for a war we did not want. Now that the war is over, we do not need them. Murmurs of surprise rippled through the chamber. However, G1 continued, and her voice hardened. The remaining fleet will be maintained at full readiness. We will establish the Galactic Peacekeeping Force, headquartered on Earth, but operating throughout known space. This force will have one mission: to prevent aggressive war. Any species that launches an unprovoked attack on another will face human intervention. We will not ask permission. We will not debate in this council while innocents die. We will act. A counselor from the Drev species stood. You are claiming authority over all species? You are making yourselves rulers of the galaxy? No, Giwan said firmly. We are making ourselves guarantors of peace. Any species is welcome to maintain their own military for defense. We encourage it, but wars of conquest are over. The age of the strong devouring the weak is over. We will enforce this, not through tyranny, but through the simple promise that aggressors will face overwhelming force. She paused, then added, and if humanity ever becomes the aggressor, we invite the galaxy to unite against us. We will not be above the laws we enforce. Director Murray, the new head of Galactic Relations, stood beside G1. She was younger, only 40. Chosen because she represented the post-war generation of human leadership, humanity is proposing a new galactic charter, Murray explained. It will enshrine certain principles as universal. The right to self-determination, the protection of civilians in conflict, the prohibition of genocide and mass violence, standards for treatment of prisoners, rules for ethical warfare. These are not human values, she continued. These are universal values that most species already claim to follow. We are simply proposing that they be enforceable. The debate lasted for weeks. Some species objected to human oversight. Others worried about the concentration of military power. Some supported the proposals enthusiastically, especially smaller species who had lived in fear of larger, more aggressive neighbors. Finally, the vote was called. The new Galactic Charter passed with 83% approval. The Galactic Peacekeeping Force was established. On Earth, General Doyen oversaw an unexpected assignment. Species from across the galaxy were requesting human military advisors. They wanted to learn human tactics, not for conquest, but for defense. "It is strange," Doyen said to his staff. 6 months ago, they mocked our military. Now they beg to learn from us. "They have seen what happens when they face us," replied his aide. "Now they want to ensure they never have to face us. The best way to do that is to be too strong to be worth attacking, but not strong enough to be a threat to others. They want to learn that balance." Doyen began training programs teaching alien soldiers human strategies, but he focused on defensive tactics, on protecting civilian populations, on minimizing casualties. He taught them how to fight, but more importantly, he taught them when not to fight. On the Vraxian homeworld, something remarkable was happening. Pilot Youngji had volunteered for the occupation force. She expected hatred from the Vraxian people. Instead, she found curiosity. A group of Vraxian children approached her one day as she walked through a market. They stared at her with wide eyes, these small aliens who looked nothing like humans but somehow seemed familiar. "Is it true you destroyed 100 ships by yourself?" one child asked. "No," Youngji said gently. "I worked with my squadron. We succeeded together, not alone." "Our teachers say you could have killed everyone," another child said, "but you did not." "Why?" Youngi knelt down to their level. "Because we do not want to kill. We want to live in peace. Your leaders made that impossible for a time. But the war was with them, not with you. You are children. You deserve to grow up in a galaxy without fear." The children thought about this. Then one asked, "Can you teach us to fly like you?" Youngji smiled. "Perhaps someday. First, you need to learn why we fly. Not for war, but for exploration. Not to conquer, but to discover. Can you learn that?" The children nodded seriously. Youngji saw in their eyes the same thing she had seen in human children. Hope, wonder, the desire to be something better than their past. Thalric, surprisingly, became one of the strongest advocates for the new peace. He traveled across Vraxian space, speaking to his people about what they had lost and what they had learned. "We were proud," he told a gathering of thousands. "We believed strength meant the ability to take what we wanted. We were wrong. True strength is the ability to choose restraint. The humans showed us this. They could have destroyed us. They chose not to. That choice required more strength than any military victory." He met with Admiral Minho 1 year after the surrender. They stood together on the observation deck of a space station, looking at the stars. "Do you hate us?" Thalric asked quietly. Minako considered the question. "I hate what your government did. I hate that 40,000 people died for no reason. But hate is exhausting, Thalric. I cannot carry it forever. Instead, I choose to work toward a future where such things cannot happen again." "Your species is remarkable," Thalric said. "You've suffered greatly, yet you offer mercy." "How?" "Because mercy is not for the one who receives it," Minho replied. "Mercy is for the one who gives it. If we had chosen vengeance, we would have won. But we would have become the thing we defeated. We would have proven that might makes right, that the strong can do as they wish. We chose differently. We chose to prove that strength should serve justice, not the other way around." 5 years after the war, the galaxy had transformed. No major conflicts had erupted. The Galactic Peacekeeping Force had intervened in 3 minor disputes, stopping them before they could escalate. Human ships patrolled the trade routes, protecting merchants from pirates and ensuring safe passage for all species. The Varaxian Empire had rebuilt, smaller but wiser. They became known for their philosophers rather than their warriors, exploring questions of ethics and justice with the fervor they once reserved for conquest. Other species followed suit, reducing military spending and increasing cultural exchanges. Universities across the galaxy taught courses on human history, using Earth as a case study in how a violent species could choose peace. Giwan stood once more in the galactic council chamber. She was retiring after 50 years of service, half spent begging for peace and half spent enforcing it. When I first came to this council, she said in her farewell address, I was young and idealistic. I believed that reason and evidence would be enough. I learned that sometimes peace must be defended with force. But I also learned that force must always serve peace, never the other way around. Humanity did not want to teach you this lesson. We spent 3 centuries hoping you would learn it yourselves. But when you crossed the final line, when you forced us to act, we made a choice. We chose to win without becoming monsters. We chose to enforce peace without becoming tyrants. We chose to be strong enough to protect the weak, while remaining humble enough to remember when we were weak ourselves. She looked across the chamber, at representatives from 47 species, all listening with respect. The galaxy is at peace. Not because war is impossible, but because aggression is unprofitable. Not because species cannot fight, but because they choose not to. This is the peace we wanted all along. A peace based on choice, not fear. A peace maintained by strength, but defined by mercy. Remember this. Remember that the kindest species can also be the most dangerous. Remember that those who choose peace, despite knowing war, are stronger than those who know only violence. And remember that we are all watching, ready to defend this peace we built together. The chamber rose in a standing ovation. 47 species honoring the human who had shown them a better way. Admiral Minho, now elderly but still sharp, gave the final order of his career. Half the remaining human warships would be decommissioned, their weapons removed. Their systems converted for peaceful purposes. He watched from the bridge of the Indomitable. Well, as sleek warships transformed into colony vessels, ready to carry humans and aliens alike to new worlds. Ready to explore instead of conquer. Ready to build instead of destroy. We did it, said Commander Suman, now an admiral herself. We taught the galaxy to fear us, then taught them they did not need to be afraid. We taught them something more important, Minho replied. We taught them that they should fear themselves. Every species has the capacity for violence. The question is whether they have the wisdom to restrain it. The galaxy is learning that wisdom. Finally, the indomitable will departed on its final mission, not to war but to explore the uncharted regions beyond known space. The age of conquest was over. The age of discovery had begun, and it had begun because humanity, the species that knew war better than any other, had chosen peace.